Hello and welcome into Off Topic with Laird. I'm Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare. Today to talk about a whole bunch of things since we don't have actual topics here. But I do have one topic. So we'll stay on that topic for a little bit. I actually will probably end up talking about what we wanted to talk about on Sorare Andrews this week until Sorare themselves decided to change everything up. But we'll get to that as well. So thank you to everyone who's coming in. Looks like Piggies was first. Nellis out. Down with Lister play. Scosmo, hello. Thanks for coming in. Fuller says Forza Limited. We'll get to that. Don't worry. Don't worry. Mike Baston, good to see you. Not a fan of the action shots, though. Mike, the problem is that everybody loves the action shots, at least to get people to click. And I'm just in the business now of getting people to click on things, and that's the problem. Connor R., you will be part of this story, so thank you for being here. Josh Forth, what's up? Shaforkel is here. Good to see you. 93 Acres. Arvind, who said, yeah, I noticed you sold your unlimited cards. Yes, there was a very big particular reason, and we'll get to that. And let's see. Charlie is here as well. Charlie, hello. Matt, look at this. See, everybody coming in to say hi at the beginning, which is really nice. It's not these like lurkers that are like, yeah, I really love it. Don't forget to like the video. Germ, good to see you. Thank you for coming. So, yeah, I did a thing this week, and I still have no idea if it was the right decision. Part of me feels like it was, and part of me is already dreading it. Actually, I take that back. I actually don't have any dread. But Rikamon said, letting Sorare data pick my teams this week. Good. That's what it's there for. I tend to use it as a piece of the puzzle and not just like a solver, but teach their own. As we say, there's no right way to play Sorare, and I don't think there's any specific right way to use the Sorare data lineup builder. So go nuts, man. I know Haber's doing that as well. I'm excited to see where those lineups end up. Haber's got some really fun cards too. So actually Haber was a little bit of the inspiration of what the stuff I did this week. Looks like Crypto Brecco is here. Hello. Thanks for joining. So I did a stream with Nepenthes, anyone who, I mean, a lot of people know who he is. So go follow him on Twitter. He's a great Twitter follower. I've been a longtime follower of his. And I did a show with him 2 weeks ago, I think, where we were both kind of talking about our limited galleries. And we both had a pretty sizable limited gallery, like well over 100 cards. But we also have a lot of rares and super rares. He has a unique. I do not. And so we were kind of like, man, what could we do if we just got out of Sorare? Got out of Sorare. Got out of limited cards on Sorare. And Mike Basson said there is the right way to play a Sorare, and they told us that yesterday. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But so Nep and I were talking about what if we sold all of our limited cards and used that to make our rare and really super rare teams better. Josh knows this an inside joke, so everyone who doesn't, you'll just have to find out what it is at some point. But so that was like the talk, and we kept saying that there are a lot of people that we know, maybe not a lot, but we know people who really try to just have like 3 or 4 like super teams, and they put all of their resources into those teams. And Harry Trades was one of the examples that we use. Like Harry has some like elite U23 teams, which shout out to Harry. Actually, I don't even want to like jinx it. I'm going to look this up really quickly because Harry was Gameweek 364. So Harry, I believe, won U23 Rare Pro this midweek. And Harry loves a good midweek. And so he's won U23 like rare pro, super rare, like during midweeks. And his lineup this week, I'm just going to show it here on the screen, was like, I don't think anybody is looking at this lineup at the beginning of the week and thinks that's definitely winning. And actually, Barco was having a huge game. And I was actually talking about this lineup with Gator Guy. And he was like, yeah, Barco's on 60 AA right now. And it was mid-game, and not like 10 seconds later, he completely mushed them and they conceded. And Barco went from like an 80 to a 58 or something like that. Like still a good score, but nothing super elite. And then like in the last minutes of the game, Barco connected with Varela for a goal, if I remember correctly. Yeah, there it is. 99th minute. And propelled Harry up. And I believe Reinders and Verbruggen hadn't played yet. And so, yeah. So Harry has these, I mean, this was like a midweek, but you can see like the quality of players that he has, like Diogo Costa, Enzo, Pedri, Cherky, I guess. He's actually had this Florentino Luis super rare for years. Tani, this is probably a bad example since this was the midweek, but this is kind of the way that you can go about it, that you can have a 22 ETH gallery with 27 rare cards and 32 super rares and 2 uniques. And like, that's a way you could play. And I did not play that way. I spent a good portion of money on limiteds right when they first came out. And so the reason I did that was it allowed me at the time to get players that I couldn't get rares or super rares of. And that was really interesting to me because the way I was playing the game was essentially scouting as much as I could. Scouting is not the right word because I don't, it's not like I'm watching film, but I'm just trying to find players who are overlooked and still can score well. And so I wasn't really like competing for podiums much. I did Luckbox 2 years ago. And so the way that I looked at it was limiteds allowed me the opportunity to own my game of players that were better than what I had in my rare and super rare gallery. And at the time, that was really fun. And like looking back, it's dumb to like look back at prices from 2 years ago because tons of things have changed. I also like won a lot. So one of the benefits of buying limited cards early is that the rewards that they were giving away early on were high. And so it was like, it was easy to win cards, to be honest. And it was clear that as time went on and more people joined, it was going to get harder to win. I mean, that's just basic common sense of, would you rather compete against 50 people or 5,000? Like, obviously you'd rather compete against 50. And so I basically stopped buying, for the most part, I stopped buying limiteds. And I was just using the ones that I bought early on as kind of like my base. And then anything I won, I would either sell or use some of those cards. And just like looking back, so I think, as dumb as it sounds, and actually maybe I shouldn't have gotten rid of this card, but the other benefit of limiteds is that it was like, you can do Andy Black level dumb things, and it doesn't cost you that much. Like buying a card of a guy going like this. So I loved this card. And I bought Christian Ramirez from Krasnodar. I bought his card because he was holding a ball. And then I had all of these people contacting me of different action poses. Shout out Sorare NBA. And I was like buying them. And it was fun. And I was able to kind of use a little bit of my budget at the time on doing things like this. And then I bought some Seattle Sound. I bought a full Sounders stack because everyone was like, they're going to just run the table this year. And then they won the Champions League and they were terrible. Actually, that might have been the year after. I forget who it was. But like Nicholas Ladero was like a rare card that I was out of my range at the time, but I could get as limited. And so I bought a bunch of limiteds early on, and it was really fun to be able to root for guys like that. Hulk was an early one that I got. Like, I bought a full Minero stack, which at the time was like so out of reach. And I kind of used it as I'm going to take the guys that that are good in the game, but aren't like the elite guys. But I'm going to use those guys to win the elite guys. So like at the time, Morioka was like a top 5 midfielder on the platform. So I bought Morioka. And Noah Lang was like the top U23 forward at the time. So I bought Noah Lang. And it just, I'm trying to see, like scroll through of other guys that I bought. Shout out Robin Prop. I brought Proper Unerstal stack. Cody Hackbo I bought was like one of my first ones. Like that was the beginning of my U23. I really like that. Ben Johnson says he saw Nuruddin in there. He was a killer. Absolutely. And yes, Cosmo RIP Morioka. So Ibrahim Sangare is another one that I like really liked. I actually bought 2 of them. So I think it was Buscagli, Gakpo, and Sangare that I bought. I put bids in for all 3 when I went to sleep one night, and I didn't expect to win them. So I actually bought 3 off the market, and I won those. So I bought those, and then I won all 3 auctions. So I actually had doubles. And so I'm pretty sure I sold one Gakpo really early. Yeah. So like I bought the first one for 147 and then sold for 443. And then he had this huge run up. And this was also when I had the issue of, so Gakpo was one that I was convinced was going to transfer like before he did. And so I ended up selling him, and then he stayed and just smashed his face off. But it was guys like that I was really interested in owning. Oh, that's when I first bought my sporting stack. So I had Adon and Coates and Gonsalves, and there's Noah Lang. Like these are the guys that people that I talked to on Sorare who had been on the game for a while had the rares and super rares of these guys. And every time they scored, it was like, Noah Lang scores again. And you're just like, ah. But limiteds allowed me to like have some exposure to them. What was it as big? No, of course not. But it was still like fun. And I was building lineups that were like, that felt like top tier lineups. And so I just kept doing this. And the more that you win, so here's like, I sold the Sangare, there's the extra Biscaglia and the extra Gakpo that I sold. And so it allowed me, shout out Michael Bradley here. Look at that. Nothing like selling a Hackbo limited for 0.125 and then buying a super rare Michael Bradley for basically a third of the price. And Gonsalves, I believe, I don't remember if I bought 2 of them or if I won one. But anyway, it was a ton of fun for me. And it allowed me to, like I said, have exposure to like some of the best cards on the platform. And eventually my God, I paid 0.198 for that Morioka. Oh yeah, Cecina is another one. I was so pumped when I bought that Cecina. And Kikuchi's another one. Somebody was talking about RIP Morioka. I guess Kikuchi was more injury related, but I bought, Enzo, or not Enzo. Well, I did eventually buy an Enzo. Joey Veerman I bought. It was in his Heronbean shirt. Like he was still there. So it was awesome. And so I had a lot of fun with it because I was able to like make these really great lineups, and it was fun to do that. And I was winning like cool cards, and the whole thing was really fun. But I got to a point where because you could only use limiteds in limited competitions, like we never got limited pro, like really, I ended up just having way too many. And when you have rares, which you can play in rare pro, at the time you could play one in the super rare division, and then super rares, which I didn't really have that many super rares at the time. You could play them in rare pro, super rare. I never played them in unique. So there was just the limiteds had the least utility. And so when you get to a point where you have 40 Champion America limited cards, and you can play them in Champion America, All-Star, but I tend not to play them in All-Star during the European season because they weren't as good, or U23, and there weren't that many great U23. There were just too many. There's just too many cards, which is kind of a problem I have with Sorare NBA now. But so I got to the point where I just had these limiteds and I just kind of kept churning rewards. And it wasn't until recently where I just decided that I wasn't having as much fun with them. And what brought me there was I wasn't winning things that I wanted to win. And I realize this sounds really dumb. But I went from winning cards like Kai Wagner, Gravenberch, and I was able to like finish really highly. And then I just, yeah, Sean kind of said it. You were having literally no fun with them. I used to have a ton of fun. Like, honestly, I loved it. And there were times where I considered selling all of my rares and super rares and just playing limited, like honestly getting the best limited cards, like playing Mbappe in All-Star U23 and Champion Europe, getting Messi, running him in, but like, and just having like the super limited because I was never going to be able to do all of that in rare. And then I actually considered, when I started to accumulate super rares in order to play the super rare division. This was before they made the rewards better. And so all of the, I know this sounds weird, but there was a time when people who had really good super rares just wouldn't play them in the super rare division. And then they put in the star super rare and ETH and all this stuff, and they made the super rare division better. But I was actually getting to a point where I was thinking of selling all of my rares so I would just play limited and super rare, which is a bad idea, but usually why I didn't do it. So I got the one that happened recently, that it wasn't like the straw that broke the camel's back, but it basically was that I finished third in Challenger Europe Limited. And I won this Grimaldo card, which was actually the second Grimaldo I won. Great card. Like, don't get me wrong. But it didn't really change my lineups that much. Like, it was great, but like I used to run Kim Min Jae a lot in All-Star. Like U23 and All-Star were like my main limited lineups. So Kim Min Jae was actually a reward also. But I just couldn't get excited about winning Grimaldo, who's an awesome card. And that's when I was like, maybe I should actually get rid of these, because at the time I was like, I could really make my rare and super rare teams better if I didn't have these limiteds. And there was also a point where I put so much focus on my rare and super rare and rare pro lineups, and I still do, that when I was going through the lineup builder and I was like, okay, I'm finally done. And then I was like, oh shit, I still have all my limited lineups. And they tended to build themselves, but it was still time. And I still had a ton of extras. And so it just became a nuisance, which was literally the opposite of how it started and how I always thought limited would be for me. Now, this is a very me thing, and I'm not here to tell anyone else that this is what they should do. I'm not here to tell anyone else they shouldn't play limiteds. I think it's great. I think it's fun. If you are in the position where limiteds is what you play it as best as you can and go from there. But it wasn't what I wanted to spend my time on and my money. And so let's see, Flong says fun comes either with winning rewards that get you excited and you move forward, or watching a game where you have a full stack. Yeah, to be honest, even the full stack, like I had a Sounders stack and I had a well, I had the Minero stack and then it got broken up, but I was losing the fun with them. So that conversation I had with Nep, which if anybody hasn't listened or watched, it's literally called Scouting with Nep on the Sorare Data, either audio or it's on this YouTube channel. And he was kind of saying the same thing, that it's nice to have the lineups because like when your rare and rare pro and super rare lineups are dead, it's like, well, at least I won some limited cards. But even that like wasn't getting me. That wasn't it. It was still just like, I'm winning now like tier 5 limited cards that I don't even want. And now it's like they're just clogging up the gallery. Shout out Javi Simons here, who I won. This Pascal Gross card was actually was fun. I think that, oh no, Seamus Coleman was the first Premier League card I won. So I started thinking about it more and more and just like, what if I just sold them? What would I do with it? And because that was kind of the big part, was the reason I was going to sell them is because I thought that the ETH would be better put somewhere else. And with my gallery, like having better super rares and even some rares, like that helps. And so I went into the Sorare General Discord, and there's a channel in there called Galleries. And it's basically a place where everyone just posts if they're buying galleries. Like Pavel posts there, and Rody Boss and all those guys. And I kind of said to myself, I wasn't going to go to Pavel because it just felt like he wins too much. Meaning like these you don't need to go to him for limiteds. If you have a ton of uniques and you need a ton of stuff, like go nuts. So I started with, so I basically went through, and there were a couple people who posted that they buy these galleries. And so I'm trying to see exactly who what his name is on. Okay. So I went to somebody named Chainsaw and explained basically what I was looking for. So actually what I first did was I went to my Sorare data page, I went to roster prices, and I just looked at the value of my limiteds in football. And the easy way to do that is just to unselect all these, select football, and that's it. And so I don't know why this is in dollars. Sorry, I don't know. I was probably working on something. So anyway, Jump Shoot, hello, welcome. And so Flonge for limited, I didn't prioritize. I prioritized everything. I wanted to, well, that's not true. I prioritized U23, All-Star, and then I thought I would prioritize Champion Europe, but I never really did, even though I had cards for it. And actually, that was back when we had like Specialist and stuff. So I actually bought a Messi and a Neymar. The two cards that I was like, I'm going to win these, and I didn't. So I just bought them. And my plan was to run the two of them in Champion Europe, but then Specialist came about, and so I was like, oh, I could play one of them there because they're over 60. I couldn't, like 15 of 60, so I couldn't run both. But anyway, so I saw my total roster price, which at the time was like just over an ETH, which was bad because at one point they were worth way more. So this is like what happens to everybody. So I did this thing where I looked at the manager stats tab, and anyone with I believe anybody with a star membership to Sorare Data has this. But I looked at basically the value of my limiteds a few months ago. And if you can see, like in August, they were worth like, or let's call early September, my limited cards were worth 7 ETH. Like 7. And now they're worth 1. And so I had the idea that I could sell them all individually on my own. And that was going to be my plan. I'm just going to sell all of my limiteds on my own. and see what happens. And then the Surhis bot came out, and then Basil's came out, Basil P. And I was like, maybe I'll have a little fun with these. And I'll just trade like a bunch of my low-level limiteds and just kind of like move up a little bit. And so if you look at my transactions, you'll see like I got Ansu Fati and a few other guys. And I was like, maybe if I can make my 120 limiteds into like 20 really good ones, that would be fun. And it's not that fun. It's not that fun because you're limited to what those two bots or any of the other traders, like what they own. And it just never got to the point where I wanted those cards. And so that's when I reached out to Chainsaw, and I told Chainsaw that that I wanted to sell a bundle. I actually didn't want to sell all of them. And the more that I talked about not wanting to sell all of them, it was because I was like, the top 30 are worth, so the top 30% of my limiteds were worth like 90% of all of my limiteds. And so I was like, maybe I'll just sell the best ones and fund whatever I'm going to do next. But then I was like, what the hell am I going to do with all these shit limiteds? Like, why am I keeping these around? And so I originally DM'd Chainsaw, and I was like, hey, I'm looking to sell like a bundle. They're currently valued between like 0.75 and 1 ETH. Are you interested? And at the time, he was like, I don't have that much ETH, but I do know a few other people who buy galleries or bundles. You should reach out to one of them. And I was like, all right. And actually, I don't know if either of them had actually posted in that Sorare channel. And within like a few minutes, another one who is FVDV on Sorare, jumps you saying this sounds like a drug deal. Like when I say it out loud, you're absolutely right. Like I met him behind the, like around the corner in the dark. But anyway, so I started talking to FVDV, who is Fabian VDV on Discord, and said, I just got a message that you're interested in selling a bundle. Can I help? And so I told him that I had actually reached out to a few others. I reached out to, I'm trying to just quickly go through, T-Bone, who 2 days before I reached out posted that they wanted to sell their entire gallery. And then like 8 hours later was like, I'm buying galleries, which I thought was kind of funny, and Calvin Klein. And so T-Bone basically asked how much I wanted for my limiteds, and I basically took like 80% of whatever. Maybe it was even it probably was higher, to be honest. And he was just like, yeah, I'm good. Don't worry. I don't want it. And Calvin Klein asked how much, and then the conversation just kind of died. So working with, again, FVDV on Sorare, and we just kind of started talking, and he was super friendly and helpful, and pretty much used the Sorare data valuations, because those tend to be like, for limited, certainly it's the most recent. The cards are quite liquid, and so it came out to around like 80. He proposed like 80% value on my limiteds. And at the time I was talking with my friend Andy Black, and he was like, why don't you just post all of your cards at 20% below floor, and surely they'll sell. And so I mentioned this before, that I was like, maybe I should just sell all of them on my own. And so I started posting cards, and some of them were selling, and I was getting some offers. And the problem is that it's really labor intensive to post 118 limited cards. And a lot of them were at the floor. I'm sorry, we're at literally the floor that you can sell, like 0.0004. And I'm like, and the only reason those are worth that is because you can't post them for less. So they're probably worthless, or 0.0001. And so it was like on a Thursday or Friday, and then like a couple days went by where we kind of like couldn't catch each other at the right times, and the value of my limiteds was going down because it was a day that ends in Y, and so the card values were going down for everybody. And so the idea was that I was, at least the cards that I was going, or what I was going to buy after was also going down. So it wasn't like they were going like this. Thankfully, they were both going down. So like relatively, the drop didn't matter. And I will say that I don't know if it's Fabian was just super professional with it and talked me through it. And he was very open of like, if you're talking to someone else, like I get it. If you want to go with them, like don't worry. Let me know if there are other, if maybe the numbers don't match up. And honestly, that was part of the reason I wanted to sell to him. I assume it's him, because it was, we developed like a decent relationship there. And that mattered to me for some reason. And so there were a few limiteds that I wanted to keep. And somebody asked me that in the chat here, which is why I ignored it until now. Ben said, what was the decision behind keeping the few limiteds you had kept? So I had collected a few jersey mints that really are not worth anything because they're players that, actually, I wouldn't say players that people don't care about, because I actually have gotten some inquiries on those cards. But I basically wanted to keep Messi, which I'll explain why in a little bit, other than like it's Messi. And Neymar, I feel like I was selling like super low on Neymar, and so I didn't want to do that. No, sorry, Fabian. Chainsaw, who I went to first, and he passed me over to Fabian. So anyway, so I have this. So these are the cards that I kept, and it's a Jonas Hoffman jersey mint, Rusnak, Brendan Aronson, Yari Versharon, Alvaro Madron, Fred Emmings, and Tony Watt. And I also kept this Hans van der Bruggen, which was not actually the one that I showed earlier. This card was a gift, I'll say, from my good friend Gator Guy 231, who felt it belonged in my gallery more than his. And the reason why this card is so great, and Jumpshire, you're right, this thumbs up card is hot, but it actually is hotter than you think. Because not only is it a jersey mint, it is also an age mint. So 28, 28, 28. So I think this is really cool. And so I was happy to keep it. And the card is basically worthless, to be honest. I mean, the floor is the literal floor of 0.004. So Fabian was like, keep the card. That's fine. The Fred Emmings card was a gift also. It wasn't a gift. I take that back. I won a week of Shitulars, which is a game that I play inside of the Discord with Andy Black. The rules are that you have to have 5-player lineup, and the lowest score wins. But if you get a DNP, the DNP counts as 100. It's a fantastic game. We actually haven't played in a while. But that's a game I would love to see Sorare implement, or some third-party site, because it's really fun. So I basically, with Fabian, we listed out all the cards. He's like, this is the value, taking out the value of the cards that you want to keep. Here's the number. And the final percentage came out to like 82%. He offered me 0.85. I was hoping to get to 0.9, which 0.9 ETH was more realistic when we first started negotiating than when we stopped negotiating, or when we had a little break. And we split the difference at 0.875. And so the card that I wanted in all of this was probably not a card that it wouldn't have the biggest impact on my gallery, as weird as it sounds. We'll get to that in a second. But the card that I've been trying to get is a Lionel Messi rare card. And Mbappe is the best card on the platform, but Messi is the greatest player of all time. Literally wearing a Messi shirt from Barcelona right now. It says Messi on the back. So this is the card I wanted. And I realized that as we were negotiating and the price of the value of my limited cards was going down, the Messi floor was going down too. So I was like, there's a possibility that I could effectively trade all of my limiteds, except the 10 here on the screen, the ones I mentioned earlier, for a Lionel Messi rare card. And I had been trying for weeks to like trade a few cards for a Messi, and all of the, I trade anything for 120% guys who have Messis just rejected everything. And so Risu saying I should have waited for the first rare Barca next season. I didn't want to wait. And I'm not ruling out trying to get a Barca one next year either. But I want it. So I have a Tadic that I usually play. Like Tadic was like my best card, my best rare card. But now I have this Messi. And so it kind of takes over. So Ben said, are you not scared of the Al Hilal move? I'm not. But I also feel, and this is probably something that it doesn't make no sense. It makes a lot of sense in my head. But I struggle seeing a world where Lionel Messi goes to play in Saudi Arabia and Sorare is a fantasy football game that has cards of Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, and they don't count. And so I kind of have this idea, which was in the back of my head and now is front and center, that they would have to add they would have to add coverage to the Saudi league if Messi goes there. And there was a small part of me that thought they would do it when Ronaldo went, but they obviously haven't yet. But I think Messi going there would basically force their hand. That it's kind of like how they didn't have the Premier League. They didn't have Premier League cards, but they covered the Premier League. Like they had Opta coverage. And so that's it. Ben saying Opta would have to force their hand to increase coverage. I have been told over and over that Opta has enough coverage. I don't know for sure. But I also think that Opta would do that because you can't not do it if you have Messi and Ronaldo. And so now I have this Lionel Messi card. And I basically got it by trading. Like the way I look at it is I traded, as you see, this is the list of limited cards that I sold in order to get the Messi rare. And it doesn't feel like what I set out to do was done. And that's kind of the weird thing about it. I haven't made like drastic changes to my gallery by selling my limiteds. Like originally my idea was like, yeah, I'll sell my limiteds and I can get a few super rares. And maybe if I need a better rare, I'll get that. But I actually just spent it all on Messi. And like, I need another super rare goalkeeper, which I could have bought with the money that I got from this. But I was like, no, I'm buying Messi. And Risu's asking, I've never seen Messi live. Never once. I would love to, but I haven't yet. And so it made me start thinking, oh, so Metal Gear, this is exactly, thank you for bringing this up because I meant to bring that up before. So looking back, where is that? Manager stats. So September 1st, I'll even just do it from there. September 1st, I was like, hey, my limiteds were worth 7 ETH. Which like really hurts the more you say it out loud. How much was a Messi rare back then? September 1st, 5 ETH. It was a steal. But a month earlier, there was 7. I don't know why he dropped. Did he get hurt or something? 5 and then right back to 7. Oh, it's my birthday. 7.4 ETH on my birthday. And so it feels fair. It felt like a fair trade despite the drop in my limited cards. Thank you, Metal Gear, for bringing that up. Ben Johnson says, with limited prices right now, a super rare threshold is enough to buy a Celtic and Dynamo Zagreb stack in limited. Returning with low maintenance stacks is an option after some super rare thresholds. I don't want to go back right now. I have no interest. This is also a fun graph to see that I have the lowest Messi. That can't be ever. Do I have the cheapest one ever? No, it's not. Somebody bought actually below me. I remember that. Yep, 0.8. Yeah, I don't have an interest in limiteds now. And this was the first game week that I didn't have any limited lineups to set. I actually entered the French League semi-pro because I only have 10 limiteds now. So I can play semi-pro. And so I realize I'm not the person who's supposed to play this, but I did it anyway, at least for this game week. So I have a 50% Lionel Messi going this week. Jumpshoot said, falling out of love hurts. It would if I didn't now have this Messi card. I'm not going to lie, like, I'm not going to go into the negotiation of how I got this Messi card because I'm just not going to go into it right now. Not from the person I bought it from. I was negotiating with other people. And Ben Johnson reverse Robin Hood and semi-pro. Maybe I'll give the reward away. Because if I win anything, it'll be a limited card, which then will take me out because I have 10. If I get one more, then I can't play semi-pro anymore. But anyway, I don't know. But when I finally agreed to sell the limiteds, and then Fabian sent me all the offers and he was like, please check everything. Like, he's like, I'm human. Sometimes I don't put the right cards into the valuation, but everything was perfect. And I accepted them all. And I was joking with Keith, my Gator guy, 231, because I do this a lot where I want to trade cards for other cards and then nobody wants to take my trades, but then I'm able to sell the cards I want to trade. And I'll have enough ETH just to buy the card that I was trying to trade for. But I'm like, oh, now I have the ETH. Now I don't want to really spend it. But I was like, I want to get this Messi like now. Because nothing was going to happen where all of a sudden Messi's rare price was going to double. But I wanted it in. The season's like coming to an end. And so I wanted it for this game week because if I lose a week of utility, then it's just not, the card's not worth as much. To me, at least. So I just wanted the card in. And so I finally got the card. And I was like shaking. Like I couldn't believe that this card was in my gallery. And maybe the tale is that all of those limited cards allowed me to get this Messi rare. Like that's what I'm going to tell myself. Because my idea with the limiteds was, let me get the best limited cards let me get the best scoring limited cards so that I can win the best cards like Messi or Mbappe or whatever. Never won Messi. I ended up buying like that one that. So I talk to Sean all the time, and Sean and I have not talked about this yet. But yes, Sean, I bought a Messi. This is him right here, 40 of 100. And Ben Johnson saying, just look at his scores. Like, I agree. Yeah. Like this is exactly like, I went from, I was losing, I wasn't having fun with my limited cards. And I have mostly looked at Sorare as a game that brings different levels of enjoyment. And it's fun. And there was a part of the game that wasn't fun for me. And there was something very obvious that was going to make it fun. And it was this card right here. Not this specific one. I did end up choosing a current season card instead of an older one. I wanted the extra XP right now, which I know will backfire, but I'll just boost them. I don't give a shit. So Sean said that looks like Messi and not Carlos Gil. Sean, I played the two of them together this week. So that was the other thing. I like couldn't believe when I actually put my lineup together for this week that I have Carlos Gil and Messi together. And it felt like Isco's saying you still have ETH left after buying him, so you could potentially still buy super rare or rare to improve your lineups. Sean, like Paolo, 100% DNPing. Like everyone I talked to and everything I read was like he's locked in. So yeah, he's definitely not playing this weekend. But my other option was Adon Coates, and I think we both know that that's not going to happen. Mike, I haven't actually done the boost yet, so I'm not backtracking anything. But I have Messi now, so now everything's different. I've never wanted a lineup to win more than this one right here. Like, I wish everyone would just like do me a solid and sell one of their players from their all-star rare pro lineups because that kills it. I know it's not keeper. What the hell is it called again? List or play yet. But I'm excited about this lineup. And this is like like a nervous energy, like legit, like first date nervous energy that I have not had on Sorare in a really long time. And it's because of this Messi card. And I realize not everyone can do this. And I was just fortunate enough where I was able to get there. And I still need a super rare goalkeeper. Like I have this all-star rare pro lineup here, hoping for an Unerstal DNP. Bouncy, who did you trade with? So it's FVDV on Sorare, and it came out to like 82%, 83%, somewhere around there. Everyone in chat, Pablo and Isco, are like, "Don't worry, Pablo's going to play." Like, listen. No, don't want to jinx it. I hope they play. I'm expecting them to play, which is why I have them in this lineup. With Osmar the goat, or Osmar surrounded by two goats. Mike Basson said a Messi rare completes you. That's how I feel. I really do. And it's fun. And doing lineups and not having to do my limited ones, which I had really good players and really good lineups, and I just like wasn't getting any extra enjoyment out of it. And so yeah, so now I have Messi, and Piggy said leave FVDV alone. Not leave him alone. Like he was great. Like everyone, like you should all do deals with him. It was a legit pleasure chatting with him, and because like just my own nature, I have lots of questions about things, less about like. Oh yeah, just it was a very good experience, and it was the first time I'd ever sold like a ton of cards, and it was seamless. It was great. I highly recommend. Like if anybody asks, like Chainsaw was really nice, and if that could have worked out, I'm sure it would have. But FEDV and then Pug Trader was the other one they mentioned. So yeah. If anybody's looking to sell a bunch, I would go to them because it was just great. And it's funny, like looking back, that a bunch of these cards have sold already. And I'm like, man, I wish I had like sold them. Oh, so the last point. This is amazing. This show is called Off Topic, and I have like talked about the same thing for 50 minutes right now. So Mike's asking how hard was it to sacrifice coin farming? It puts a little more pressure on the amateur teams, not going to lie. No, I just don't. No, I don't. I'm fine. It's what are you gonna do? So the the reason why I wanted to do it all at once was because I knew that I would get all my ETH at once. And so like Andy's idea of why don't you just like post everything 20% under? And it's like, well, I'm doing that anyway. Like when you go to, oh, Rikamon said I have your Jonathan Mensa. So what's funny is that Mensa card I bought because I had the rare, I have a rare and super rare Jonathan Mensa, and I bought that one because um, because of my rainbow squad, which now is like detrimental. Like I have this list, so like there's the Mensa rare and super rare. So I had like the limited rare and super rare, but now I sold them all. I probably should have kept a few of the limiteds, but what are you gonna do? So yeah, so like Hulk doesn't. Man, I'm gonna have to redo this one now. I didn't even think about that. And I'm just a liar here with my vertical stacking. Oh yeah, and now I get to add Messi to the list. I think he was actually already here because I had a national series in the common. But you're right. Now I have four. Thank you, Bet. Appreciate you thinking that. So I'll do this later. You know, when I'm very busy. But where was I going with that? Oh, right. So Andy was like, just post everything 20% and they'll just sell. And so I had previously posted a bunch of cards and some were selling and some were not. And all it was doing was basically ruining lineups that I had while also not bringing in all of the ETH I needed to get this Messi card. And so that's when I was like, I should just sell Twitch Rate because it at least allows me to get it all done at once. Like I could post all of my limiteds at the floor or below and just wait. But I didn't want to wait. I actually did have the ETH at the time for the Messi card, but I had some other. I mean, if you just look at my transactions, I bought other cards as well that I thought I needed, and then who knows if I actually need them? We'll find out after this game week. But the benefit of getting your money right away was better than the 20% I was giving up, which ended up being a little less than 20%. And one of the interesting things that Fabian brought up was that a lot of my cards were old, and which is true. Like I said, I bought a ton of these like early on, but they had really high XP. But he was kind of like, yeah, and I don't sell like I'm not constantly looking at how limited cards sell and what people are interested in, but like it is clear that current season cards are more attractive to people, whether it's the 5% XP bonus or it's just because they look nicer, whatever it is. People want newer cards. And he was like, yeah, a lot of yours are old though. And I'm like, yeah, but the XP is high. And they're like, yeah, it doesn't matter whether that was like a negotiating tactic or what. But so it ended up not being a big deal, but it was kind of interesting. So Mike is saying, why didn't you put money in for the Messi to allow time to sell the limiteds yourself? So I thought of this. I actually had, well, I would have had to deposit money in. The reason I didn't do that is, yeah, and so like Short here is saying I'd take the new MLS cards over the old ones. They just look so nice. I have a soft spot for the big head ones, but it's stupid. So I agree. Like the new ones look much nicer. And so the reason I didn't take my time buying the limited, buying Messi rare and then filling in the limiteds over time is there were other cards I wanted to get. And if you see here, I bought a Mauricio Pereira super rare and a Nasang Ho super rare for different reasons that maybe I'll get into at one point. Hopefully you'll see them on the podium this week and then you'll understand why I bought them. So it just made sense for what I was trying to do to get them out. And selling them to FVDV was the best way for me to do that. And so, Surface, thank you. And it felt like a very different, like Sorare feels very different for me now. And if you notice on my gallery, like I still have 169 limiteds. These are all like in MLB and NBA, like I have mostly limiteds. I don't play super rare at all in those two. And so I don't really see myself changing that anytime soon. They really haven't given me any reason to do it. But it was just I'm starting to look at. I was trying to measure the level of fun I was having. I wasn't even trying. I knew that I was not having as much fun with the limited cards. And you can make the argument that I didn't need a Messi card, because like that's legitimately insane. But as you see on the screen here, like I have a Dusan Tadic. I usually play Tadic. Like had I not done this, this All-Star Rare Pro lineup is the same thing, except it's Tadic instead of Messi. Like Tadic isn't a bad card. He's like away to PSV this week, could still absolutely bang. Like it's not like he's bad. And you can make the argument that the difference between Messi and Tadic is smaller than what I could have done otherwise with this E. But it's fucking Lionel Messi, man. Like I had an opportunity to get a Messi and I was like, I got to do it. And I apologize for cursing there, but like that's how I feel. And I'm just like, I'm pumped. Like I'm excited about it. And there are only like 7 or 8 games left in the season. I think it's only 7 games left. Tadic actually has fewer. So I was like, oh, I'm getting a little more utility, trying to justify it as if it matters. But there was actually a time where I was thinking of trying to trade Tadic and like a few other things for Messi, because I appreciate people who are willing to trade. Man, I was going to go through a whole trading thing today too. I appreciate there are people who are willing to trade for like 120% or whatever. And you're like, okay, well, here's a bunch of garbage that's worth 130% of the card you're buying. And they reject it because they're like, I don't really want the garbage. But Tadic, I could get something for. Like Tadic is worthy of trading to get Messi, like Tadic and ETH or Tadic and pieces. And I eventually just decided I was going to, if I could keep both, I would. Because at some point, like Carlos Gil won't be playing at the same time, like in the winter. And I'll need like a European one. Bouncy is agreeing, like Messi's very sellable. Tadic is too, yeah. And so Morris is asking where I think Messi goes. I don't know. Like he could go to Barca. As long as it's covered, like it really doesn't matter. It's Messi. And I talked about the Saudi Arabia thing before, so I'm not going to go into it because I don't want to speak it into existence anyway. None of us want that. So Rel was saying Tadic is younger. Yeah, I mean, he is. I was actually more concerned with Tadic transfer rumors than Messi. And I don't think Tadic goes, to be honest. His contract's up after next season. But there were like talks of him going to Roma, which is just all like Tadic anywhere else is worse than Tadic at Ajax. And so there's that. Mike's saying, if someone offers me 2 ETH for Messi next weekend, do I sell? Is this a list or play question, or is this a 2 ETH question, Mike? So as long as there are Messis available for 0.9, yeah, I would sell my Messi for 2 ETH, and then I would just buy another one. I'm not going to say I'm never going to sell this card, because I never really thought I'd sell my limiteds either, but I think actually the only time I would sell this Messi card is if I could get a Barca one. And I think just a Barca one is cooler. I imagine if they have Barca ones, that these PSG ones will be very cheap. I mean, comparatively cheap. Oh, Mike's saying Lister play, of course. That's a great question. Like if this lineup next week like smashes, and then I don't know, Bouncy saying Tadic to RSL. So that's the thing. If Tadic goes to RSL and Messi goes to Miami, now I have Gil, Tadic, Messi, and my Champion America lineup. I don't know. Morris is saying we didn't think we'd ever see Messi this cheap from last year. I agree. I mean, I have no idea. Like none of us know. None of us know what's going to happen. And so I want that, which is why I want the card now. Like, let me play it and let's have some fun. So I was going to do a whole thing about trading. I'm going to condense it down to like 5 minutes now because I've already talked to you guys for an hour. But I'll be honest, the Messi rare is like giving me some extra energy. Might be the 7th cup of coffee I've had too. So I wish trading was more of a thing on Sorare between two people who were trying to make their own galleries better at the same time. And I feel like this was something that I've done previously, but it hasn't really worked in forever. And this was actually going to be the topic for Sorare Andrews of like, you don't have to, I forget what it was called. You don't always have to screw people. And it feels like we've gotten so far into the whole, like, I'll trade, but for 125%, that we forget that it's possible to like create trades between two people who both win. And it's like an equal trade. And so months ago, years ago, when I was trying to trade for certain cards, I would go into the other manager's gallery and see how they play. One of which was like, am I offering cards they already have? Because that always bothered me. Like when people would send me trade offers for cards, like it would be the equivalent of somebody trying to send me a Messi rare or trying to get my Messi. And they're like, here, take a Carlos Hill rare and an Osmar super rare. It's like, I have those already. I don't want another one. Shaforko saying, your problem is you bought Messi for a left hand. Now you must buy another one for your right. Yeah. Somebody mentioned it earlier, but like Neymar's price right now is like so fun. I have no more ETH, but man, I would love a Neymar too. Exactly. So Mike, mutually beneficial trades. What are you smoking? So when I used to trade or try to trade, I would go to the other manager's gallery and be like, what do they need? And if you look at somebody's lineups, it's like very clear that you can tell right away what would make their lineups better. And I'm not saying everybody plays to get their lineups the best, but there is a way where you can trade where both of you guys get what you want, and you don't have to screw somebody else to get. You don't need to get 130% just because someone came to you and said, I would like this card. And so there are a lot of people, and maybe it's a result of Sorare not allowing you to change your Sorare name for every 3 months. But there are a lot of people who are like, I trade for 110%, 130%, 125%, whatever it is. And so and obviously Pavel does it. But it's a very clear, like, I'm willing to trade my cards as long as you give up way more than you need to. And that, I hate that. Quick, who is somebody I talked to about Messi, because they have a Messi. There we go. Trades are cool in their manager name, which I love, because Quick actually does do like reasonable trades. And so So Reese was saying, you said you did it. Do you still do it? I don't do it because I can't find other people willing to do it. That if I look at another manager's gallery and I'm like, hey, you have this half an ETH card that I want. I have these 2 cards worth half an ETH that I think would help your gallery more. And they're like, well, just give me 0.8 worth of cards and then we'll do it. And it's like, this is not what I'm trying to do. And so I think I wish there were more people who were interested in mutually beneficial trades. And it's weird to me that we've completely accepted this idea that if you want to trade cards for other cards, like you have to overpay, because then they're like, well, then they have to sell, and it takes time and energy to sell those cards. And it's like, well, what if I'm not trying to give you cards to sell. I'm trying to give you cards that I think will help your gallery. And in exchange, you're sending me a card that helps my gallery. And So Nando's right. People are so used to dealing with these so-called market makers, they don't know how to make win-win offers. I completely agree with you. I don't think that. So I think it's okay. I think there are people who make win-win offers, but it's that people are refusing to accept them because they're like, I'm not winning enough here, even though I'm getting like a card or 2 cards or 3 cards that are actually beneficial. I still win, but I'm not winning enough with this trade because I'm not screwing the other guy. And it's like, why are we doing that? And so Scosmo said, when I first joined, I made a lot of deals like that. Haven't done so in over a year. I think if you take the time to have a conversation with someone before getting into the deal, it can happen. I wish that was the case. I haven't gotten there yet. And I think part of it is because these, as Nanzo put it, so-called like market makers are so active. Like they're the ones whose cards we constantly see available on the market. So like that's where we go. But yeah, so Scosmo is exactly right. Do research on the gallery first. You're exactly right, Scosmo. And this is exactly what I used to do. And I realize it's just not worth it anymore because people just don't. I mean, I haven't tried it, so maybe I need to try it. But they're just like, there are not enough people who are willing to do it. And that's the unfortunate thing about it. And because I love, so back in my transaction, you saw like I was going to try to trade like, 10 limiteds for 1 limited and like work my way up because I love this idea of trading. But the idea that you have to like overpay for everything makes it less fun. Surface was saying trading was a huge part of the game in the first few years, but now the market is relatively mature. So the time cost benefit of trying to trade has become marginalized to the point of futility. Beautifully written and correct. And it's a bummer because I love trading. Like the idea is like 2 people coming to an agreement on something that isn't, I need to screw you. So like Scosmo says, I'll trade you equal value for the Messi if there's some stuff in my gallery you want. So I don't want to give this card up, but this is where you go to your gallery and say, what cards in my gallery make Andrew's lineups better than his Messi card? And honestly, like, I'm not going to take any trade for that card. But I get it. If you did it for my Tadic and you were like, I think this Champion America super rare defender would be better, or this super rare goalie, I need a super rare goalie, that you could use here, and instead you're kind of using Tadic where you shouldn't. Like, you can convince me. Like, it's not, like, I love trading. I love the idea of trading. I'm not here who's like ready to trade Tadic rare for a Messi limited because it's just not, that somebody tried to offer me a Messi limited the other day. But I think trading is like one of the most fun parts of this game. And the fun trading has just like disappeared because people just feel like I have to screw you. You're not giving me enough, even though like, and I appreciate not wanting to accept like exactly equal value for a card that you didn't even want to give up. But I think people need to be a little more open to the idea of, wait, this does help me. Yeah, maybe it's close to equal value, whatever it is. Yeah, me. Surface said he's trading in MLB, which I haven't tried that, to be honest. But Raul said, I cannot trade as I'm at a 10K loss. I don't know what that has to do with it, though. We all are. Dennis said, I like searching for managers that include their favorite club in their manager name. That way, they may be more interested in someone from that club. Oh, okay. I'm picking up what you're throwing down there. I don't really have one, so it's... Pablo said, I have a list of managers that accept or send me fair offers, and they're the first that check galleries that I need cards. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Scosmo said, I think as scarcity has dwindled, it's made the equal trading less necessary. There's enough of most cards to find one. But it's easy to find cards if you have ETH. But like not everyone has ETH. Shit, I'm out. I spent all mine. So I would rather try to trade. I just want to say, like, I'm not talking about the 15 limited cards for one rare card. Like, I'm not talking about the trades that we all try to pull on Pavel or Sirhis or now Basil's bot. I would love more bot traders out there, if only because I find it fun to like try to work, and like I don't feel as bad spamming offers to a bot than I do an actual human being. But I wish there was a more win-win situation other than the other side winning just because you overpaid and now they get to sell the card. So I hope that we can see more like card trading. And I do wonder if we will see it now with this new 5% fee coming out, because obviously you're not going to pay a fee on the 5%. And the random people were like, no, you just include a National Series card and then the ETH, but like the ETH will get the 5% tax on it. So I wonder if we'll see more trading that I think is like a hallmark of trading cards. They're literally called trading cards. I know they're digital, but still. But I'll trade my Messi for like 300% though. There are no equal trades on a Messi. Sorry. I'm not sorry. Never mind. I have this card. It's fun. I think I'm going to stop there. I probably could have gone way more into the trading thing. In fact, Andy and I had an entire podcast scheduled for it. And Sorare decided to change the topic on us. Well, not the topic. They changed the oh, wait a minute. So Surface said the most laborious trade I've made is still one of my most controversial. It was an Everson unique, literally took 4+ days of negotiations, and at various times since I've both won and lost a trade. Yeah, I mean, a trade for that card should not be easy. But I agree. Like I think it's, but like that stuff I actually enjoy. I think that's a fun part of the game, of like working, just as I said I was going to be done, of working with someone else, trying to come to an agreement on a deal where everyone is happy. Like that is a cool part of the game. Instead of, hey, can you just throw in 3 more rare cards of guys you've never heard of just to get the value up a little bit so I feel like I'm winning. Scosmo said, list or play or trade. If you trade a player for another eligible player for that position, it subs in. Oh, love that idea. But yeah, there's no way they would do that. Bouncy said, like, you trade me the card that I was going to buy with that ETH so that I don't lose out on the 5%. I mean, I guess. Victor said, I think there may also be a problem with the fact the percentage of cards managers want is very low compared to the cards available. Everyone wants to get rid of their unknown rewards. Absolutely. And in those situations, I'm okay with you or whoever sending them to a gallery or anybody for 130% of the value, because those are cards you don't want. And whatever we think the value is probably not the actual value. It's less. And actually, I was going to go into that a little bit. Maybe somebody remind me about that next week. I'm sure something will happen I'll never remember. But I don't think my limiteds are actually worth what I thought they were. Scosmo is a fun solution of DNPs. That is, yeah. Nanzo said there needs to be a way we can signal what cards we're interested in receiving in a trade. I agree. I think that's something that Sorare should do, though, and not Sorare data, which we'll see if that comes. But I agree. Yeah. So anyway, thank you to everybody for joining. This was a ton of fun. I'm excited. I haven't been this excited for a game week in a long time, and Lionel Messi is the reason why. So Thank you to FVDV for all of the work on my limited bundle sale. Thankfully, we got that in before the 5%. Woo! So yeah, thank you everybody for joining. If you guys could please hit the like button. Appreciate all the comments during the stream. They're awesome. I love them, and so thank you for participating, because it makes this a lot easier for me and a lot more fun. And yeah, so thank you everybody. Like the stream. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. If you're listening to the audio version of this, if you could please rate and review it. And yeah, let's go Messi. No, seriously, good luck to everybody.